Hello YouTube, this is a Roblox tutorial on how to build multiple different styles of terrain. There's all kinds of different ways to build terrain on Roblox, and it's kind of up to you to build these certain terrains, and it always matters on how the game's going to be put together too. Some can be harder for others, some can be a little bit easier, and some might look a little bit better in certain things that you want to build. And some might work better. For example, if you want to put like a house on terrain, then you want terrain that's kind of flat, or you can design something that's hilly around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to develop and see if I can make a new place, or just use a new one. Or I can do this right here. I've never been here to create a new place because I usually just use something else. Alright, so let's build a basic base plate, see if everything's correct, and it looks good. So let's create a place, and you can create as many places as you want, but you have to have certain memberships to keep as many as you want open. BC gets 10, TBC gets 25, and OBC gets 100. And if you were a previous BC member, you can have up to 5, but unfortunately free players can only have 1 active place, but you can create as many places as you want. As you can see here, I have all kinds of inactive places. Alright, so now we have a nice empty base plate to build a terrain on, and I'm not super familiar with the new studio just yet, so kind of be patient with this. So I gotta find how to turn off this grid, because I don't really like that. So let's see. Let's go to 1/5 stud. Terrain test view, show grid. Alright, so now that grid is gone. So now we have a nice base plate to start building stuff on. So what we want to do to get a brick at first is go to insert, I believe, and then go to here. Oh, you can actually insert stuff through here. That's kind of nice. Yeah, like I said, I'm not really familiar with this new studio either. Alright. So instead of, for me, using actual studio tools right here, you can use whatever you want. I would recommend getting plugins, because usually they just work better overall for me. And also plugins can also help you build certain terrains as well. So the first terrain I'm probably going to make is just a basic flat terrain. So let's start off with some grass. Get rid of the little inlets on top of here. So it would be top. Change it to, you can make this whatever you want, by the way, and to, where is it? I want, oh, there it is. And then the back, or the bottom, I want smooth. And if you don't like outlines either, go to lightning, and then where you see outlines, uncheck that box, and you can see right here the outlines start turning off. And then if you want better dynamic lights, like the environment to be more realistic, turn off global shadows. Oh, that actually doesn't look that good. Alright, let's turn those back on. And if you want to change the size of an object, you can do this through properties. So let's change this to a plate. That way it's more realistic, because we want it something thin. Or you can make it even thinner. Go custom, and put the height at 0.2, so it's even thinner. Okay, I can also do this through F3X, which I'm gonna probably use. I recommend this plugin a whole bunch. And there's also plugins by Quenti, such as this right here. It's the same thing as CMD UTL panel, except it's a little bit better. So I'm gonna use F3X in this tutorial. So let's build a flat base plate real quick. And now what's cool about this terrain is that you can just put whatever you want on it. You can build on top of it whatever you want. I'd also recommend building walls around it, unless it's supposed to be like a huge open world, whatever you want. So let's teach you how to make walls. Oh yeah, I also forgot, if you want to change just realistic looking grass, you can also do that. So let's change that to grass. So you go to your material tool, whatever you're using, and change this to, let's see, grass. And there you go, you have grass. And let's change this to slight, because this is going to be walls. You can make your walls whatever you want, but this, I'm gonna make them like a brown that looks like rock. I have to find it though. I'm not very familiar with all my tools yet because I just started using them. So let's frame this up to like, let's say 30, and we're just gonna build like a little simple world type of thing. And so to make your walls, you can build something simple, such as doing this, you know, all around the perimeter, or you can take this back, and this is how I do it. Let's change this to 30, that way it's symmetrical with everything. Move this back here, and yep, that looks good. And you can make it whatever size you want, so let's move this over and start C-framing it. And now since we're going straight, we want to use the global axis when we move it. And make sure these are all random so they look the best. And make sure they're all in order, and it looks like it, so. And you can build this however you want as well. And just keep doing that throughout the perimeter. That's usually how I do my walls in a more simple way. So what I'm going to do right here, and you can do this however you want. This is how I do it, is that copy this, put this all the way up. Let's change our increment to 0.1, that way we can get it nice and precise. 0.2 studs, 0.2. Change that to grass. And there we go. Let's change this to the color of the base plate. There we go, we have some nice rocks. And to add a little bit more detail to these, so these look a bit more realistic and detailed, is we're gonna copy this. And this is how I'm building my terrain project as well. Put this to whatever size you want, whatever looks best. I'm just gonna put this to 10, which is like 1/3 of the wall size. Let's change this to 11. That way they stick out a little bit. Change that to that. So now it looks like we have rocks right there. And you can do that through the whole perimeter. And you can also build the base plate however you want. So you can have like some land sticking out of here a little bit. And that's how you can make architecture as well. And so that's like basic flat base plate terrain. So let's lock this real quick, that way we don't accidentally use it again, because we don't really need to. So let's lock, that way you can't select this thing again. And let's go back to tools, well, my plugin, and let's copy this. And I've never made this terrain before, but I've seen it before, so I'm going to try to build it myself and see if I can do it. I'm pretty sure I can do it. So let's just change this back to 1, since we want to do something simple. And I don't know what to call this type of terrain, but it's kind of like step terrain. It's kind of good in forts and stuff because it gradually goes up. It's also good for like hills and mountains and stuff. So let's say you want to build like a fort that leads up, and so let's copy this. Let's go to last. That way it's symmetrical with what we lead it to. Because the global axis, it goes through the sides of the world, and the last, it goes through the sides of the part. And only certain plugins can probably do that. So here's this type of terrain. Usually people will C-frame it a bit, so it'll go something like this. And the sides will be covered by walls, and sometimes it'll be rock, and sometimes it'll be grass, stuff like that. And I recommend going to other places too, that way you get some ideas and you learn how people build these things sometimes. So to cover that little crack right there, let's make another piece of terrain. And you can also build with stamper terrain, which I can teach you real quick, but I don't use that at all because in general nobody really likes stamper. So here's kind of step terrain. Just imagine that, keep on going up, and that's pretty good for forts and stuff. And I usually see it in 2 paths as well. So I'm gonna put grass on top of here to make it look better. Okay, there it is. Change this to 0.1. And there's also a couple different types of terrain, which I will teach later in this video. And I'm sure there's a lot more than just what I'm going to teach as well. Change this to grass. Now it's getting a little bit faster. And then sometimes you'll have like rocks right here, so we can change this one to rock, and that looks kind of cool. And then we can just have some walls on the sides right there. So for the next terrain, I would say it's like hill terrains or sphere terrain. So let's get a block, or you can insert a whatever block, and you can always insert a sphere mesh or whatever you want. Make sure all sides are the same size, so 5 by 5 for instance. So since it's terrain, let's make that bigger to like 15 by 15. Basically what you do is that you put spheres inside each other, and that makes terrain as you go on, and it looks pretty good in my opinion, but I don't see a lot of people use it that often because it's kind of hard to build stuff on top of it. But overall it looks really good. Alright, so let me figure out, okay, here we go. Let's add a sphere mesh, and that will create a sphere along the borders of it. So if you walk on this, it's probably not going to work very good because you're going to be walking on a block instead of the sphere. So let's try to see if we can find an actual sphere. Okay, this will probably work. I hope this is not a mesh. I don't think it is a mesh. And no, it's not a mesh, it's an actual part. So this would work. And you can also change that for the properties. I actually forgot that. Change it to ball. You can also change the cylinder, which I've never seen anybody build terrain on before. I don't think that would turn out so well. So let's change this to grass real quick, a green color. Let's actually make this dark, that way you can see it better. 15. Oh, it automatically does it. That's nice. So if you change one size, it automatically does it for you. And notice how if you oh, never mind. Sometimes you can only see frame certain or resize certain places of a sphere as well. So let's put this into the ground. Start making our first base for the terrain. And make sure you don't really have to C-frame this because it's a sphere, so it's a 360 all around. It doesn't really make it look different at all. Basically, like that. So let's make this bigger on the second layer. Might be a little bit. Uh-oh. Let's undo. Okay, there we go. So we can start going like that. Basically, you just put a bunch of spheres together with different shapes and stuff like that. And there you go, you have like hill terrain. And you can also use blocks at the same time as well. And what I love about F3X tools is that it doesn't copy a block on top of a block, it copies it inside the block. That way you don't get that annoying thing that Studio does that does this. So for example, if I copy this, it creates a block on top of it, and that gets annoying for me, so I just use F3X to do that. So you gradually just slope it up like that. You probably don't want to make your slope as strong as I'm doing it. But yeah, that's pretty much how you make hill terrain. Stuff like that. And let's see if I can think of some other terrain. There's also flat-based terrain, which I'm doing in my terrain project. This is still mostly flat-based, but so I'll teach you a little bit of a technique to make like a really cool stream or something like that. So let's change this to 2, 3, I think, and then let's make this 10. So for example, if you want to make like a stream, this is how I do it. Probably I do mine in a little bit more detail, but since I want to make this quickly, I'm going to do that. You probably want to change your increment to something a little bit less, that way you can make this a little bit more accurate. So let's build our stream like this, for example. And let's just be lazy with it and copy the other side. And so if you want to get some side hills, which I'm doing in my project, let's change this increment to 1, C-frame out like that. And notice how you get little splits in the middle. And the way I learned how to fix that is to C-frame like this and to be like that. And it doesn't really affect how the sides look right here either. But what happens is that see how these don't really line up. So usually what I did is that I put some outer walls, that way it covers up those spots. And if you C-frame it a little bit different, or resize it a little bit differently, it's not really too noticeable. So let's do that on the other side. C-frame this all at once. Well, that actually works better, because it's on the other side. So let's build a little bit of a wall right here as well. This little nice little simple wall. And as you can see, the shadows are starting to take in place now. So let's put grass on top of this to make it look better. Change your increment to 0.1 if you want nice and small grass that looks realistic. And there you go. And change that to grass or to whatever you want. And now, since this is 3 high, we can put water in it. So let's make some water real quick. Sometimes textures look good too with water. Doesn't have to be transparent. Let's put this down to 2. Put this back on the ground. That way it touches the ground. And there you go. Now you have a nice little simple stream, and you can continue it on from there. So that'll be pretty much it for terrain videos. You can make this out of rocks or whatever you want. You know, be creative with it. And as you keep on going, you'll gradually create a place, and you can even combine all these types of terrain together and make something that looks really good. And now I do recommend that you learn C-framing, which isn't that hard to learn how to do good building and stuff. I mean, you don't have to C-frame to make certain things, but it's highly recommended if you want to do advanced stuff like this, because a wall that just goes straight on, it probably doesn't look the best. I don't know why there's still a shadow right there. Maybe it's reflecting from here. Let's delete that and see what happens. That is kind of strange. And I should have done that, so let's undo. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, sometimes plugins and stuff will interfere with the actual studio, so undo doesn't work for me sometimes, so I have to be careful. So that'll be pretty much it for terrain. That's like 4 types of terrain right there. This one I tried out just today. And let's do something else real quick, actually. So let's say you want to make like a slope, something basic, like this. Again, you'll have to learn C-framing. There's also a C-frame tool in here as well. And you know, if you do one stud and it goes like this and it C-frames a little bit too sharply for you, put it down to 1/5 stud, and you can C-frame like that. And if it's still not good enough for you, turn it off and you can do a custom C-frame like that, where it has no certain places to go. It's just up to you to where to drag it. So let's make it like that. Go back to my plugin, and you can install these plugins under the plugin section in the catalog, which I'll show you real quick where to go for those. So let's say you want to make a hill like that. That's a pretty high slope, but let's do that. Make this a little bit wider. 72 studs. We can get that correct. Let's just type it in otherwise. There you go. To put grass on top of this, let's just say let's just do that. And there you go. Now you have a slope that's going up, and you can do this off your base plate too. You can add whatever you want on here too. And let me teach you something where you can make your own grass too. Again, you'll have to learn a little bit of C-framing. You can also use meshes and whatever you want. They all look pretty good. So let's make something really small right here real quick. Let's make this 0.7. That'll work. Put this into the ground, that way it doesn't look like it's sticking out of the ground. And then C-frame something that's right next to it so it looks like grass. And this is pretty much the same grass I'm working on my terrain project as well. And just put this around right here. and let's show it on the other examples of terrain. So let's put it right here as well. That might be sticking on the ground a little bit, but oh well. Make sure it's in a random order and you change the C framing around it, otherwise people will notice that it might be lazily done where all the grass looks the same. And this is the same grass, it's just it's C framed and positioned like in a random order type of thing. That way it looks completely random, and that's how you want it to look. I mean, you can copy and paste certain things, which I recommend to save time, but if it affects the quality of something, then I don't recommend it, unless it's gonna like affects your building time by like 5 hours, and you probably don't want to copy and paste. Well, do kind of copy and paste it. So there we go, we have grass right there. That makes the terrain a lot more lifelike and realistic as well. And so let's add some right here. And again, you can use whatever grass you want. I recommend putting in trees, stuff like that. Depends on the environment too, so if you build like a desert, I would try to make the cactus for it. And you know, don't use free models. I'd recommend building all this stuff by yourself, and if you need scripts or anything, you can always get a friend to help you out, or I don't know, just do whatever you can. Usually, sometimes you don't need scripts if you're building something though. And I'll show you how to get some stuff later. And so if you want to put in a dynamic light with F3X on Studio, I'll show you that in a second. Let's put in a point light, which is all around 360. And notice how it doesn't cover the whole water. This isn't entirely realistic either. It's just I think it adds more life to the water if we put dynamic lights in it. And see, now it's glowing. And if you turn shadows on, that's basically light affected by shadows. And usually it gets a little bit darker because it's affected by other objects. So now we have glowing light. You know, put some grass on there too. And then we have our hill terrain over there. I bet you can put grass on there too, but it might be a little bit harder because you're going to have to make slope grass, and same right here too. So to put in a dynamic light, let's just get more water and remove the dynamic light from this. So let's go to, we're going to have to find advanced objects right here and put in a point light. So you can see it's kind of glowing right there in the middle. So let's adjust our range to 30. You can also adjust the brightness to make it brighter as well, and that also increases the range a little bit. But let's make it look kind of realistic. And you can change it to whatever color you want. Just click that little box right there, shows as default by white, and there you go. And you can also use a color wheel if you want to, which is really advanced stuff, and turn shadows on and off. And there you go, we have a point light. And a spotlight is pretty much the same thing, except it's a light that points in a certain direction, which I'll show you real quick. Let's get out of point light. So a spotlight, it points in direction. I probably should use a separate brick for this, but let's do it anyway. See how it points out in a certain direction, and you can change the direction as well in the face. So let's go back, left, change it like that, and you can also change the angle of it as well. So let's change it to 40, so it's a more narrow type of light. See it a little better. You can change it to whatever color you want as well. And certain colors of bricks and materials will reflect differently off lights, because if you have like a white block, you'll see lights easily. If you have a black block, it'll not show up as easily, just because it saturates the color inside it. So let's make this range a little bit larger. I think the max is 60. So let's make a wide light. And so this is 150 degrees. So something like that. So to get these tools or plugins, you can use Studio. Like I said, you can use whatever you want. You can customize it like you want. Go to plugins. These are all really useful, by the way. Shift to sprint. That's kind of cool. There's all kinds of awesome plugins on here that'll help you create your places. Armor Creator, Intro GUI Creator, all kinds of stuff. FPS Creator. Sprint Coder. That's a cool plugin, but I don't really use it at all. I've seen this before. Alright, so let's go for F3X in case you want that. It looks like they have all kinds of them, but this one looks like the most legit. I think these are both the same. A newer version is available. So let's go to the other one and see if it says that. Read the description. So these are building tools, so if you want to put it in a personal build server, which I do, you can install that. So install that, since I already have a version of it. And if you want to get Qwenty CMD utility tool, whatever, you can also get the original one. Type in Qwenty, whatever. I don't think I found it correctly. Let's do CMD UTL. It looks like people have all kinds of stuff on it. So let's go to best selling. Here's the legit one. So you can install that. And if your plugins don't pop up, I recommend restarting Studio. So just close it out and restart, or you can click reinstall and make sure your plugins are up to date. Let's see where plugins are. There's a way to check whether or not they're up to date. Oh, plugins folder. Wait, that's not the right thing. Okay. Oh yeah, you could go to manage plugins. So see here, you can check all of your so you can update stuff. I gotta update a bunch of stuff. So there you go. And you can also delete plugins. So for example, if I want to do delete draw triangle, which is also useful. Oh yeah, I got a cheat sheet how to make terrain with that. You can remove that. So make sure to keep your stuff up to date. Okay. Let's refresh this to make sure it's up to date. I'll probably have to restart Studio to get it working again. Anyway, so let's teach how to draw with the triangle. This is how you make extremely advanced terrain. So you get this little selector thing right here, as you can see. So basically you put two triangles together to make terrain, and this is how a lot of EPR builders build their terrain. They probably use a script to put it together, which is a lot more advanced. So let's put this together real quick. Click a point here, click your second point, click your third point, and then you have a triangle. And so you're probably wondering, how do I make like hills out of this and elevated, whoops, sorry about that, elevated terrain. So what you do is you hold down right click and see how it's going up like that. It's a little bit hard to manage, but put down your third point and there you go. Looks like it's smoothing out a little bit better than it used to too. And what's nice about this is that it automatically connects to joints, so instead of, you know, just trying to be accurate and move this to the points, it'll automatically adjust it for you. See how it's automatically doing that? It's a nice little feature. So let's make this hill a full hill. Oh, whoops. Kind of messed up. Okay, there you go. Kind of messed up right there, so just ignore that. So now we created a hill out of dynamic triangle. And you can create whatever terrain you want with that. It's extremely customizable, easy to use, stuff like that. There's basically only two controls to it. And so you don't want something like this where it's all gray and boring, so let's color this in with the F3X tool. And apparently it's all locked, so let's unlock all and then lock our base plate again so we don't mess something up. Okay. So now we can select it since everything's unlocked. Let's change this to a dark green grass. So there you go. You have terrain with dynamic triangle. I'm not really the best at dynamic triangle. I might do a test soon. And then you can also build terrain with the stamper, which I highly don't recommend, but people have created some pretty cool stuff with the stamper before. And so that'll be pretty much it for this tutorial. If you need anything else, please ask, or if you have any ideas for other tutorials, put those down in the comments or throw me a PM on Roblox, which my username is Big Granny, just without the zeros. So BIGGRANNY, same thing as my channel, just without the zeros. And yeah, that'll be pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Also, invite your friends to this video and show them about this video. And if anyone's kind of struggling with building, needs a video, just go ahead and send them the link to this video or whatever. I'd appreciate it. Anyways, see you guys later.